Oh, hi there. Welcome to another episode of the Okanagan Gardener and Forager channel. I was just having a snack of some lodgepole pine cambium in my yard. Anyway, so a lot of people ask me, Okanagan Gardener and Forager, how do you know so much about foraging? And to that question, I might say, well, I read a lot of books and I try to learn things. Now get out of my bushes! Now that specific scenario may not have ever actually happened. But I have seen people asking questions online about some books that might be good for foraging. It might still be a little too cold to work the soil. And in my area, some of the foraging opportunities may not be so great. So I thought that I would make a video about my 3 favorite and most relied on foraging books. Now, just a note on how I'm going to describe these books, I decided to come up with a rating system. I have 4 categories. One is pictures. The next is what I call book learning factor, and that's kind of my measurement of the density of information and answering the question, will you learn a lot from this book? The next factor is readability. Is it easy to read? Is it something that you can pick up and enjoy, or is it easy to access, maybe organized in a logical way? Does it have a coherent theme or story? Is it well organized and easy to read? And the next one, the last one, is a subjective one for me. I call it the Okanagan Gardener and Forager factor, and this is really just me adding my own subjective take on it. It's how much did I like it, and it's completely subjective. And then I take an average of the 4. The first book that I will be describing, which is my favorite of the 3, Edible and Medicinal Plants of Canada. And first factor, pictures, I give 4.5 out of 5. The pictures are really good. Big pictures, colorful pictures, and most of the different plants have multiple pictures, and I like that some have drawings as well. The next factor is the book learning factor, and this one I give also 4.5 out of 5. I really like that each has lots of information about whether they're edible, there's food, and there's medicinal applications, and sometimes there's other uses, but then they also have descriptions. It also has descriptions like, where you find it and some ways to identify, which is great. I also, for the book learning factor, I really like at the back this sort of information, stuff about plant anatomy, glossary of terms. It was really helpful. The next, readability. This, I give it 3.5 out of 5. It is easy and interesting to read, but it's also, it's not a book exactly, although there is, it's not a book, that you read like a novel, but it does have, stuff at the introduction that's good to read, interesting to read along through that, but most of it, it's a reference book. And the last factor is Okanagan Gardener and Forager factor. I give it a 4.5 out of 5. It's loaded with information. It's interesting and informative. I really like that most plants have information about how indigenous people use the plants, and also some about European people using the plants. Really good book. This is my favorite. The next book, of my top 3 books that I like, is Plants of the Inland Northwest and the Southern Interior, British Columbia. This is also from Lone Pine, and although it won't score as high as the other one, this is super helpful for me. Anyways, I'll get into it. Pictures. The pictures are not as good as the other, so I give the pictures 3 out of 5. The pictures are still good. There's lots of good color pictures, but they're just smaller, and there's more plants, so the pictures are often, there's just one small one per plant. There are drawings for certain things, which is helpful, like in these keys. So I like some of the drawings, but anyway. Book learning factor. This is really a reference book. I give the book learning factor 4.5 out of 5. It's got limited information about edible and medicinal plants, but for me it's super important to help me actually positively identify different plants. And it has things throughout like identification keys throughout, so I use those to positively identify different plants. And it's got more information at the back like this to help. Sometimes the descriptions are confusing, so if you're not familiar with the terms, but this book can help you define them. Readability, 3 out of 5. It's not for reading exactly. There's a part at the beginning, an introduction, but this is like a textbook. It's a reference book. And the Okanagan Gardener and Forager factor, 4.5 out of 5. This scores really high because I use it all the time. It's like my first book I go to make sure I know what plant I'm looking at. And just as a note, there's lots in this series. This is another one. This is the one I had back in university. I really like these books. There's all sorts for different types of plants in different areas. So if you don't live in the interior of BC, I'm sure there's one that you could use. So overall, 3.75 out of 5. And my third book I'll be reviewing, Pacific Northwest Medicinal Plants. This book also scored really high in my rating system. First, pictures. Big, colorful pictures, often multiple pictures of the same species. Really good pictures. Book learning factor, I really like. There's a lot of background in it at the beginning, talking about how to use this book for medicinal applications. This one's all about medicine, but it tells you specifically how to use it, how to make teas, how to make tinctures, how to actually after harvesting the plant, what to do with it. So that's great. 4.5 out of 5. Readability, also 4.5 out of 5. It's a really interesting book. There's a big introduction sort of laying it out at the beginning, but the way each plant is described and written, it's interesting to read, and you can really tell the author's passion as you read it. So good score on that one. And the last one, Okanagan Gardener and Forager factor, I gave it a 4 out of 5, and that's because it's just medicinal. For me, there's not much information about edible plants, but it's not for that. So it's great, but it would have got 5 out of 5 if it was all about medicine, maybe. But Okanagan Gardener and Forager factor is what I wanted, so 4 out of 5. Overall score, 4.375 out of 5. Scored the highest of the 3. So those are my 3 favorite foraging books. I'm going to put a link in the description for where you can get them at Mosaic Books in Kelowna. It's a local and independent bookstore, so maybe consider, if you want to get them, maybe get it from them instead of the big boys online, but whatever. And no, in case you were wondering, I'm not sponsored by any of these people, but if anybody was wanting to sponsor me, I probably wouldn't say no. Anyway, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.